please come forward to be recognized and receive her pin and certificate. Beth.
Okay, I hope you can all hear me. Our first recipient has served our church in so many ways, including as the children's Sunday school teacher for all the various grade levels. She has been a tutor at George Mason, preparing lunch and dinner, as well as visiting with our evening Caritas guests, campus ministry, risk, deacon, elder, and confirmation mentor, just to name a few. Also serving on various committees, including nominating, budget and finance, nurture, and personnel chairman. Here's a quote from Suzanne. So glad to share a few wonderful things about this amazing woman. When Jan Saxon, Gordon's wife, was still at home with him and he couldn't attend choir rehearsal because he couldn't leave her, she offered to go and sit with her on Wednesday nights so he could have a night out and attend rehearsals. An amazing and brave offering for sure. Kat Kairos, our soprano section leader, needs an extra set of hands on Sunday mornings when her husband is out of town. Our recipient and her husband take care of these boys while she is warming up with the choir and during the beginning of worship until they go off to children's church. Another huge help for the music ministry. And for Mary Kay, may I add that her leadership while serving as an active session member was sacrificial and significant. From the serving on personnel as chair during Charlie's retirement, she also committed a lot of time, prayer, and listening leadership when the session considered adapting to its marriage policy. Her faithful leadership assisted in our church changing its policy to marry any church member regardless of their gender identity. She has always said yes to serving as a mentor to our confirmands and is dedicated to their care. She has been a teacher, a nurturer, and an active worshiper, an unsung hero. She is also very involved in her job as professor of mathematics and chair of the Department of Math and Computer Science at the University of Richmond. She was named a UR Distinguished Educator in 2014 and from 2003 to 2012 while serving as Associate Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. She guided the growth of undergraduate summer research program from a small number of students, mainly working in science labs, to a program with dedicated funding for more than 100 students from all academic disciplines. A model for and now a part of the Richmond Guarantee. The retention of traditionally underrepresented groups in the various fields of math, computer science, and the sciences is very important to her. She worked with her colleagues to develop a course to help the retention rates, which is now seeing better results in math and science. Her most recent research project involved a collaborative team from the University of Richmond, the VCU Health, Rehabilitation Sciences and Engineering, and the McGuire Veterans Administration Medical Center, studying quantitative approaches to identify chronic, mild, traumatic brain injury in combat exposed veterans. As you have heard, her love for her church and her family's faithfulness, which includes Chip and their 3 adult sons, Jimmy, Michael, and Harry, are most important to her. Kathy Hope, please join.
presentation.
I am very humbled to stand up here and present this award. In fact, I'm so privileged to honor this recipient that I felt as if I needed some props. Would my helpers please come forward and place your palms? Thank you. For those of you who cannot see or tell what is in these containers, it's gallons of glue. And the reason I decided to buy all the glue at Target is because this recipient has truly been the glue that has kept our congregation together for the past 3 to 4 years. She has conducted numerous weddings, funerals, baptisms, and meetings. She has visited, counseled, preached, prayed, and cared for each one of us. She has shared our joy, our sorrows, and she has spread her love among us. She even told a few lies. She even told a few lies to get Kathy Hope here today. I feel so blessed to have been a part of the diaconate when it was completely transformed into a compassionate care ministry under her leadership. Mary Kay, you have been our rock, our glue that has held us together. And I'm thrilled to present the Presbyterian Women Honorary Life Membership Award to you. I would like to conclude with some poems written by your family. This first poem was written by your sisters. Mary Kay, we want to shout out loud because you make us so proud. We wish we could be there to celebrate you. Your love for PW shows through and through. A lifetime membership, now that's a feat. First Pres of Richmond feels your heartbeat. You are an amazing pastor, that's a fact. Your wit, your touch, your eye contact. You were there to listen and take note. Many years you did devote. Whenever people need care or a prayer, they know you will always be there. Congratulations, we wish we could take part, but know, dear sister, you are in our heart. Love, Holly. I have one more poem, and this one was written by Mary Kay's father, who is also a minister. Try to get through it, okay. Roses are red, violets quite sinister. Our special K is a very great minister. Her parents are proud of their child number 4. She always has loved, cared, and even much more. Born while at seminary, destined to lead, Mary Kay's a great pastor for folks with a need. So congrats to our daughter on this special day. We love her so much. She's our special K.
He is out of town working, but he invited 2 of your friends, Sarah and Sally. Sarah's here. And I don't know that, but she's gonna stay for lunch. And also Chip is here. And he's in the back. Maybe we should get one more picture of Mary Kay and Kathy together. What do you think? Here we go.
Somebody.
I got it. I got it.
Thank you so much to the Honorary Life Nominating Committee. Anybody who hasn't been on that doesn't know that it takes lives and a village to make that happen. And it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear the whole story because the web got tangled and tangled and more tangled because we were going to have a solo now, but we moved the solo because Suzanne was in on the roof. Then I got a call from Amy yesterday afternoon who said, "Have you printed the bulletin yet?" And I was like, "Well, I wish I had, but no." And she was supposed to have Sandy Irby here as a reader, and Sandy wasn't in the bulletin. So, and the most fun of all was I knew that Mary Kay was the other person, and she had started that wheel rolling down the street, and she didn't even know we were going to get her too. Two very, very wonderful, deserving women. So thank you and congratulations. I recently went to the 5th annual spring luncheon benefiting Full Circle Grief Center. This program is called Live Your Dash, and it celebrates people in the Richmond community who have inspirational stories of courage, kindness, and gratitude to share. The keynote speaker this year was Alex Peavy. He spoke to Presbyterian women in September 2017. So I was eager to hear him speak again because I find him inspirational, and I also appreciate the work that Full Circle does, as many of us have and will face grief in our lives. So I believe they do important work. So I went not really knowing what to expect with a group of women. And they shared a poem that day by Linda Ellis called The Dash. I put it on the back of your budget so that you'll keep your budget. But so that you have the poem if you would like a copy of it. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the dash is the dash between your birth date and the date of the death on your tombstone. And the dash, therefore, is the time that you spend alive on this earth. And Linda writes, "For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash." She goes on to say, if we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way that people feel and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a while. And Linda closes her poem with the question, will you be proud at the end of your life of how you lived your dash? So this idea of the dash resonated with me as I thought about our year in the life of the Presbyterian women of First Presbyterian Church. And I think that you all have dashed with courage and stamina and generosity and strength. And at times, it seems like that we've been a bit of a race with our leaders running a bit of a relay race, handing off the baton to the next runner. And here we are in May, an annual day, and there's much cause for celebration. We are about to hear from our long-awaited pastor, Amy Starr Redwine. I don't know if you noticed on the bookmark that I sent in the fall that it simply stated our First Presbyterian Church minister. We on the program committee believed that he or she would be here, and it's Amy. And we were so tickled to get to sit down with Amy and say, oh, and by the way, will you come speak to us in May? So we were confident that the PNC would have someone wonderful for us, and they did. So back to the dash and all that you've done since September that shows that you do slow down and look out for others inside these walls in the community with great respect and lots of love and lots of smiles.
You've attended circle meetings and programs. You've baked cookies for prisoners and casseroles for families in need. You've cooked breakfast and dinner for the homeless, washed their laundry, and made them bag lunches. You've driven church members to activities and sat with them on the bus on Sunday mornings and shared a smile. You've shared your stories. You've prayed and written notes. You've laughed together and cried together. You've adopted families at Christmas, volunteered at George Mason, shared Bible studies, welcomed and said goodbye to several ministers and staff members. You've been generous with your money by supporting children in Haiti, the Nicaraguan Scholarship Fund, Camp Happy Land, the Virginia Home, the Presbytery of the James, the PW Birthday Offering, the Presbyterian Children's Home of the Highlands, to mention a few. You've decorated the church at Christmas and Easter. You've taught Sunday school and driven the youth to activities. You have dashed. Or as we turn towards scripture later, you've done what the author of Philippians counsels, that which is lovely and true and gracious. I continue to find it to be a joy to serve alongside each of you, and I look forward to seeing what else we can do together in the coming year. Thank you for how you love and how you share your dash. And now, for more business, I'm going to ask Libby Marth to come forward. And so on the other side of the dash, the coin, you have a copy of the proposed budget for the year.
I think the dash is more fun than a budget. Good morning. As Melissa said, my name is Libby Marth, and I'm chairman of the Finance Committee for Presbyterian Women. And I am pleased to report that the finances of the Presbyterian Women are in very good shape. That's primarily thanks to your generous donations that you make to Presbyterian Women through your annual pledges. In addition, Nancy Hanner is a wonderful treasurer. She keeps meticulously accurate records and works with Melissa to be sure that your funds are well managed, accurately accounted for, and wisely and appropriately dispersed. Earlier today, the budget was reviewed by the Presbyterian Women Council, and we will present it this morning for the fiscal year July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. The budget's been posted on the bulletin board for the past month, and you should all have a copy with you. So let me just highlight a few things quickly. The primary source of income are your annual pledges. For the upcoming year, this is projected to be $9,000. The amount of pledges have been declining slightly over the past year, but we feel like the $9,000 is the best estimate based on historic pledging that we believe is attainable for the coming year. That being said, I encourage all of you all to continue your pledge, and as you meet in the fall with your circle, perhaps even increasing your pledge so that Presbyterian women can continue to do the wonderful things that are done. Other sources of income are what is paid for the monthly luncheons and the study books, but this income from those two sources goes directly to the associated expenses. The expenses are based primarily into two categories: your operating and administrative expenses and your benevolences. The administrative expenses include your program expenses, receptions, yearbook, things like that. The largest of those are the luncheons and the yearbook. I can assure you your leadership is always looking for ways to control these expenses. The benevolences are the gifts and donations made, some through the Presbytery of the James, and other donations made for gifts and appeals. These are opportunities that are important to the Presbyterian women, and they change from time to time based on the focus of Presbyterian women. So that is a very brief general overview of the budget. Are there any questions? I'll be around later if you have any questions, or ask them of Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you, Libby. The motion to adopt the budget comes from the Finance Committee, so it needs no second. I'll again ask if there's any discussion and hold my breath. We had good discussion upstairs. Hearing none, I would like to ask for a vote. So all in favor of adopting the proposed budget for the 2019-2020 year, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The budget for 2019-2020 is adopted. Now, Mary Kay is going to help me with this. I have a list of people that I'm going to start by thanking the people and recognizing some of the people who are completing terms of office, and then I'll share with you who is coming on. So I'd like to recognize those who've been dedicated and shared their energy and love with you all the past 2 years. Blair Tuning as Program Chair, Autumn Alberg, Recording Secretary, Jewel Cabin, Book Coordinating Chair, Nancy Hamner, Historian, Dorothy Kufler, Personal Faith and Family, Erin Sutton, Nominating, Katie Morgan, Circle 3, and Blair Tuning, Circle 7. So thank you to those ladies for their leadership and help. And so we have a funny slate because, as you all know, we adapted or modified we reviewed our bylaws every 6 years, so we changed some titles. So the people that we are looking at installing today are the following. And yes, if you would come forward, I told people upstairs if they didn't want to, they don't have to, but you will speak from your pew. But we'd love for you to come forward. I will be serving as moderator for 1 more year. Blair Tuning will be moderator-elect next year. Elizabeth Hiles is serving as the nominating chair, and Susan Douglas and Beth Witt will now be serving as Faith and Action co-chairs. And then some people are like us today. Julie McGrath will be the program chair. Miranda Ringles is the circle coordinating chair. Barbara Gunn is the historian. I believe Barbara had to leave to go to a funeral. And Peggy and Sears and Cynthia Shelhorst are continuing on as registrars. So because the way the titles have gone, there's a little overlap. So I'll stand on there too. Oh, and circle leaders, I'm sorry. We have coming on for circle 3 are staying on Katie Morgan, and for circle 7, Kay Grinnan and Mary Garrison. So I apologize that I didn't forget you all.
We are thankful that you all are here. We all have gifts to share. Some of us are called to lead others so that we might work and serve better together. God has called each of you at this time to use your gifts and talents for leadership and Presbyterian women, for the glory of God and in the service of God's people. You are invited to acknowledge that call publicly and to accept its responsibilities by answering the following questions. And I invite the congregation to help me ask the questions as they are printed in your bulletin, and the leader you will respond. Will you use your leadership as a platform to lift the voices and gifts of others? Will you reach out to both people who are like you and different from you in order to expand your circle, both literally and figuratively? With God's help, we will. Will you turn to God in times of difficulty, recognizing that you cannot make your way alone? Will you listen carefully and eagerly, seeking to hear the word of God, even if it comes from an unexpected source? With God's help, we will. Will you mourn injustice, prevail upon people with your generosity, and commit to using the privileges you have to offer grace and welcome? With God's help, we will. Will you serve with enthusiasm, humility, and wonder? With God's help, we will. Holy and gracious God, bless each of these women and use their gifts for your purposes. May you always guide their steps, providing vision, strength, and energy in the Presbyterian women at First Presbyterian Church Richmond. We welcome your leadership and look forward to serving God and God's people alongside you. Thank you.
Now we will turn from the business to worship and
Foil to get Kathy Hope here. I do get my name in the list. I'll be reading from Paul's letter to the Philippians, the closing chapter. It's chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard in me, keep doing, and the God of peace will be with you. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. It is such an honor to be here with you all today. And as Melissa said, to have been expected to be here before you even knew who I was. I think many of you saw the article that was in the paper. I had a nice chat with Bill Loman. And one of the things, he really wanted to write an article about me being the first woman here at First Presbyterian Church, which I thought there were maybe other things that we could talk about, but what came to my head when he wanted me to reflect on that is absolutely what I believe about this congregation, which is that I am blazing no trail that the many women leaders in this congregation have not already blazed. So it is because of so many of you and the women who came before you that I stand here today as the first woman to be the head of staff here. And of course, I could not be more delighted to see all this glue. And to know that you all recognize the incredible job that Mary Kay did as a leader, really holding things together in the interim, which I have learned not so much from her as from all the people who have wanted me to know that and appreciate that, which I very much do. So I'm so happy to be here and to get to reflect on these scriptures that have guided you for this year of Presbyterian women. And I also just want to say I couldn't be more grateful for the help of the PW organization in this congregation, and I've had the chance to visit several of the circles and to go to several of the other congregation-wide events, including the event that I renamed Soul Sisters. I hope that's going to stick. But to see how much you all uplift and support one another is really such a gift and a proclamation of faith and your faith. So there was an interesting study that came out a few years ago in a biology journal that reached the conclusion that practicing religion does not actually make our children more generous or more altruistic, much to our dismay, perhaps. This study did experiments with about 1,200 children from a variety of religious backgrounds, including those who were being raised really with no religion, and they actually found that non-believers were more likely to share. They were sharing stickers with their classmates, and less likely to endorse harsh punishments when someone did something wrong than children who practiced a religion. And it was any religion. So the generosity scores for Christians and Muslims were about the same, and those for non-religious children were quite a bit higher. And in fact, what they found was the more religious the family, the less altruistic the child. And that held up for all the religions in the study. Now, as with many of these studies, they didn't answer the question, why? But I have a guess, which is that sometimes in our lives of faith, and especially when we create religions, which are in many ways institutions, we begin to shift our focus to the wrong things. So in this season after Easter in Worship on Sundays, we've been hearing stories from the book of Acts, which are wonderful stories about the first attempts by the apostles to go out and share the gospel. Stories about the first communities that gathered together with the gospel as their center, communities that came together and stayed together because of this story of God's love revealed in Jesus. But because the book of Acts and many of the letters that follow that book in the New Testament reveal some of the stories of the very first churches, they are stories about how hard it has always been for people of faith to stay focused on what God has shown us list that has been a guiding Bible verse this year for you. So here's what matters according to Paul. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is gracious, whatever is excellent, whatever is worthy of praise. We could spend all of our time today thinking about any one of those things on that list, but I'm going to call our attention instead to that little word Paul uses over and over again. Whatever. I confess I cannot hear that word without hearing it spoken in the tone of my 15-year-old responding to something that my mom or dad or teacher or coach had just told me was something important that I needed to work on. It was a tone of exasperation, a tone of sarcasm, a tone of derision. See if I can still do it. Whatever. I know, it's a little too good, right? It is a tone that suggests that the person talking to you has no idea what they're really talking about. But if I take an honest inventory of my 15-year-old self, what I have to admit is that it was a tone born out of fear. Fear that actually I was the one who didn't know what I was talking about. Fear that if I did what I was being told to do, took the risks the adults in my life were encouraging me to take, I might just fail. Fortunately, when Paul uses this little Greek word that gets translated whatever, he seems to be using the opposite tone. Instead of fear, Paul uses this word with an abundance of hope, as if to say anything in your life that reflects these things: truth, honor, justice, purity, loveliness, graciousness, excellence, praise, anything you do that even hints at such things is in fact a joyful revelation of God. The God Paul has spent so much time and ink talking about. Paul's whatever is the opposite of that word said with derision. It is a whatever that opens up a world of possibility and hope, that suggests that God is in fact revealed when we focus on what brings more truth and love, justice and grace to our gatherings and into our world. Like the Apostle Paul, who took some pretty extraordinary risks to share the gospel and had some pretty spectacular failures too, he took these risks to share the gospel, especially with those who had been believed to be outside the realm of God's love. You may have heard of the writer Rachel Held Evans, and I would argue she did something similar. Very sadly, she died a couple of weeks ago at the age of 37. But, boy, when Melissa was talking about that dash, she did some pretty incredible things in those 37 years. She really was, like Paul, a kind of apostle to people who felt like outsiders to the Christian faith. She asked really hard questions of the Christian faith, and especially of the tradition that she grew up in, which was a tradition that established very rigid boundaries around who was in and who was out, around who could speak the gospel and what they could say. By honestly and openly and courageously asking questions and sharing her own struggles, she, as one reader put it, pried open the door of the Christian faith and then put her foot in the threshold and kept it open for other people. what she struggled to find for herself, and it was a struggle that she shared, was a church that had a true sense of community, the kind of community she had known in the church of her childhood. She once asked again and again in a blog post about community the question, who will bring me casseroles when I have a baby? That's what church meant to her. And beautiful reason. So, I'm glad we can answer that question. But I would say Rachel Held Evans, along with the Apostle Paul, knew that Christian community is only genuine when it goes beyond words and lip service. When even the smallest gestures reveal a commitment to kindness and compassion and inclusion and love, which I think we heard so many of those small gestures in the descriptions of Kathy and Mary Kay and what they've done in this congregation that has meant so much. This, I believe, is what Paul meant when he said, whatever. When our focus is on loving one another as God has loved us, then whatever we do, from the way we greet the stranger who walks through our doors to the ways we support one another in life's most challenging times, births, weddings, illnesses, death, whatever we do will be a reflection of what is most important: truth, honor, justice, purity, loveliness, graciousness, excellence, praise. You know this already. You who've gathered here today have been gathering this whole year, month after month, sometimes week after week, to listen and study and pray for and support one another, and to serve those in need who you will never meet or see. Presbyterian women have known for a long time that what we do, what we say, how we act, it all matters. Whatever we do, when we do it with the joy and hope and love of the gospel, God is revealed. Amen.
As
whatever you do, may it be a true reflection of the love God has shown to you and invited us all to share. As you go, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you now and forevermore. Amen.